Hi, and welcome to our final session in our Walking Together series, where we're looking at our closest relationships and how we can reflect Christ in them. You know, we're trying to look at positive examples, and we're aiming to build our relationships up well. You know, there's so much of a tendency, I feel, in our world today to tear things down, or to quit too easy, or to say, hey, you know what, this is not working for me, I'm not getting what I want. And this whole series is about looking at that other side. We're looking at happy marriages that reflect Christ, and what can we learn and glean from them. You know, Ephesians 4:32 says this: be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you. There's this disposition in that. It's oriented towards kindness. And I think it means that we have to change the way we do things.
Yeah. It also orientates towards generosity. You know, Dr. Brett Wilcox, now he's a professor at the University of Virginia. He conducted a survey on marital generosity. And this is what he says. He says that it showed that marital generosity is one of the greatest contributing factors to happy marriages. And when we talk about generosity, it's not so much like in the gifts or in the monetary sense, but in action and in deeds. I'm sure you know you've heard this advice when in marriage. People say, do not keep score, right? I think what they mean is that when we keep score of wrongdoings, like that don't really work in love and in marriage. But Shanti, in her book, she says this. She said, highly happy couple, they do keep score, but they keep score differently. They keep a different type of score. So they don't count the wrongdoings. They count what they owe. So they count the good things. So they don't count what are owed to them, but they count what they owe their spouse.
For example, like a great couples, they go, you know what? My wife did this for me. Oh my goodness, the other day, I noticed that my wife did that, or my husband did that, and they remember it. They count that in their memory. Oh man, 5 times she's done this, whatever amazing thing. She's picked up my socks or whatever it is. And they keep that in their memory so that there's a gratitude that builds up, and then they're generous back. So they go,
So there's a bank of not things that our spouse has done wrong, like, oh, he forgot to pick up the laundry, or forgot to put out the laundry for me the other day. But there's a bank of the things that the spouse does that is good, that the kindness and the loving acts that he's done.
Absolutely. So in this session, we talk about changing your entitlement, which means you're sitting around going, I deserve this, you know, I should be getting this. I have been married to this woman for so many years, I deserve this, or I'm a princess, or whatever the thing is, right? You change your entitlement to indebtedness. That means you're recognizing that actually we are to submit one to another. We're indebted to each other. Forgiveness, in fact, it's kind of, which is talked about in this verse, forgiveness is a perfect example of generosity, I think. And Christ's forgiveness for us is the ultimate example of generosity, right? So let's have a chat with some of our couples as we talk about how we can be generous.
I think we've been together for so long, and if you know John Paul at all, you know that time is very arbitrary. So the concept of soon is different for both of us. So John Paul might say to me, I'm coming home soon. And that might not mean 10 minutes or 30 minutes, or not even an hour. And it makes me really, really frustrated. And it would also make me feel as though he was intentionally trying to be late or whatever. And, you know, there'll be other things like, you know, every time we go out, he'd decide to shower 5 minutes before we're supposed to leave. Little things like that would frustrate me. But over time, I realized that one, he's not going to change at all because we've just got different concepts of time, but also that that he wasn't intentionally trying to do these things. He's not intentionally trying to annoy me. That's just the way that he is, and I think that I've just learned to accept that about him, rather than trying to change that part of him.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that Em's been very generous towards me in our marriage overall in many different ways. And I think one thing that I've learned, I continue to learn, because I don't think I've necessarily got it yet, is like how we sort of show love and how we are generous to each other. I find that thinking about the love languages helps in this case, and in many circumstances, I find myself doing sort of acts of service and it makes me feel good. It makes me feel generous, right? But in many situations, actually, Em's love language is more quality time, and so I think the important lesson,
You said I wanted to notice the access.
Exactly, and I think that's the point, that sometimes the generosity that you might feel, you have to really look at it from the other person's perspective, because as Em just said, like, I might be slaving away thinking, how good am I? But actually she has absolutely no inkling that I'm trying at all.
Great point, man.
Yeah, it's so true. Emma, trust me, John Paul not going to change, because I don't think man knows anything about time, because he's the same. And I remember in my early days of marriage, we were going out for a wedding reception, and I'm ready. I look out the window and he was washing the car.
I'm usually washing myself.
And I tell him 2 hours ahead of time, do you remember we're going out? We've got somewhere we're going to. So I help him out. But in the meantime, what I was thinking in situations like this, that we are actually on the same team. So it's no point fighting each other, because what benefits him benefits me, and what benefits me benefits him. And so we actually should be helping each other to get there, instead of being on a different camp and think that we're on the same team. So we got to work together. And so I will accept the generosity that of my partner, because in the end, I might not get what I want now, but in the end we actually end up in the same place anyway. So we still end up going to the reception. However we get there, we do, if we help each other out. So yeah, that's how we become generous to each other, even with our differences, because we help each other out.
I think the example that comes to mind is like when Michael has to study for his master's, he usually has a weekend away. So not just Saturday and Sunday, but Thursday to Sunday, where he's away from home. And he's been away for 4 days, and then when he comes back, I know that he's really tired and probably stressed and needs his downtime. So things that I would tend to try and do for him is like cook him a meal that cook him his favorite meal, or don't ask him to do some chores or something like that. And I think just adopting just the general attitude of graciousness is being generous.
For me, the example that I want to share is to be generous, I guess, in our expectations. By that, I mean, it's not just in a husband or couple relationship, but also it extends to our friendships and to others around us, right? To have a principle of zero expectations. So I've learned that from very early on, when someone really wise taught that to both Roger and I about our expectations of other people. So to show kindness even when you don't get kindness reciprocated, to love even when people are mean to you. So it's oftentimes easier said than done, but I think over time and with practice and being mindful to put that in our minds and to be intentional about it, it's become easier and easier over time.
What's the principle again?
Zero expectations.
Zero expectations. That's a good principle.
I think it's so powerful because it means that the kindness that you show comes out of who you are as a person, right? As God is formed more and more in you, as Christ is formed more and more in you. When you become this person of expectations, I do this, then you're supposed to do this, then I'll do this, you do this. You're only nice because other people are nice to you. That's what it ends up being.
Yeah.
And so I think as Christians, we all have this responsibility. Firstly, because we have been forgiven, we have been shown grace, God has been generous to us. We have this responsibility to then act from that position of somebody who is now a child of God, as this passage talks about in Ephesians, somebody who has come from that heritage, and we do these generous things. We're kind to one another, right? Because of who Christ is and who we are trying to become. And so I'm hoping that you guys will have a great discussion in your home group about how you can be more generous in your marriages. It will really transform your marriage. It will transform your closest relationships. I hope this series has been helpful. I look forward to hearing about your discussion. God bless.